What is up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good. Welcome to some Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 kind of breakdown. What do we know? So first things first, they released a video yesterday, and we're gonna kind of look through it because there's some interesting things I noticed. So first things first, I was kind of unaware slash unsure, but it's gonna be released through the Microsoft slash Xbox store. I was really holding out, hoping that we might see it come to Steam. Granted, the only reason it's on Steam is because of Dovetail Games, the original FSX. Um, so, but here we go. So the first thing I see is this. Now, we've seen this in trailers before, and what it has me kind of curious about, um, is I wonder if we're gonna have a more dynamic way to determine where you spawn. I wonder if instead of going to there's ways you can spawn pretty much anywhere in the world. And at least in FSX, from what I remember, you can kind of adjust it. You can say spawn at O'Hare, and then you can like click and drag and move your guy towards downtown. But it's kind of hard, and it really uh, sometimes it would spawn you in the air if it couldn't fit you on the ground. So I wonder if we're going to see a way to spawn kind of like up here, or if you're going to have to spawn at, say, an airport down here, fly up here, land, and stop. But this is beautiful. Now here's the second thing. The one of the biggest complaints, there we go, of past flight sims I had was the fact that lighting, especially around nighttime, was never that great. And this looks pretty good. This looks borderline realistic. If you showed me this picture at a quick glance, I would think it's real. So it's taken off, beautiful flight model. I don't know the companies designing these aircraft, but I do know some of them have designed aircraft before. So I'm excited. Now, the fog looks really good. I noticed this before. From what I remember from Flight Sim, I've been doing a lot of prepared 3D recently, which is pretty much Flight Sim kind of boosted up. Is the fog was kind of more like a overlay they just kind of put in and kind of change. It's like a white sheet where the opacity was kind of put down to maybe like 20% opaque, and you could see through it, but it wasn't great. But this one actually has texture and it's not smooth across it, um, which is really nice. The water, holy cow. The water looks so good. I was like, my mind was blown by this. Water's never been a good part of Flight Sim. Now, this is kind of something I was kind of glad to see. Because this is the first time I think we've really seen just normal terrain. We've seen grass. Grass looks good. You really can't do grass wrong in a video game. If that makes sense. It looks good. This doesn't look great, but considering like if this was this, it's not like good for games compared to games like I almost want to say Arma. Arma's a little prettier, but considering they're rendering the entire world, that's pretty okay. I'm not complaining. That looks nice. I'm curious because it looks really rocky and bumpy. So I'm curious to see how they deal with how to kind of scan the world, because I know from what I remember reading is my very basic understanding is they have petabytes of renderings of the entire world, and you're not downloading it, but it's kind of, I don't know how they're doing it, but borderline streaming, I think. So I'm interested to see. But it looks very good. This, holy cow, this was a jaw dropper for me. With the sand, nice little Beechcraft. I think the Beechcraft 190. This was just, the shots I have in this were beautiful. Gonna kind of skip ahead. We got a Embraer there, I think, or a Learjet. I'm not big on that. Got an A320 Neo here. Beautiful. The clouds. Now this, anybody that did base P3D, I want to say a little bit of base X-Plane 11 and FSX for sure. The clouds were always one of the weakest parts. Clouds, lighting, and scenery. And actually aircraft. Pretty much everything besides the framework was kind of needed boosting. But granted, when they came out, they're pretty good. I just was blown away by the different types of clouds you see. Like, it's not like it's just covering the entire screen. You have like the top of the clouds there, and they should be cumulus. I'm a business major, so I really don't know about the types of clouds, but I was the way the lighting works, that it's blowing my mind. Now, here's my favorite part coming up the trailer. The wing flex of that 47.8. So the wing flex is just crazy. Like, look at that. Here, we'll go back and kind of look at it again. Now, the engines, I'm a little nervous about. They're not looking as good as I hoped. Now, granted, it could be the angle. The lights, I was hoping they would have the lights on in this just to get a better idea of the lighting regarding aircraft, because we haven't seen too much in terms of lighting. But this looks great in terms of reflection. That right there. So I was kind of looking at this. You can tell that they copied and pasted like the basic office look, which is fine. I'm fine with that. It still looks crazy good. The texture on this headrest is amazing. I'm really, really hoping that the developers come out with some of their own aircraft, because I'm excited. These aircraft look to be in great condition. We can kind of see. Let me go back here. So there we go. So it looks like, I would guess, somewhere in Africa, probably just by the general look of this. It looks pretty good. I'm really wanting to see, one of the first things I want to do is I want to go to kind of the random areas around the world to kind of see what they did, how this looks, to do some VFR flying. I've never been a big VFR fan, but I think with this, we're going to have a good kind of chance to go VFR flying around places, kind of sightseeing, being able to look around and determine like where you're going based off your knowledge of an area. That's what I'm really hoping for. Now, let me go back. I missed it. I had it right there. There we go. So I'm guessing this kind of makes me think, here, let's go there. Thinking this is Alaska. Now this, I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned. Now, part of this is the video, I don't think it's fully in 1080. The one I'm watching. So this isn't as pretty as I was hoping. Now, granted, it is stopped. It probably does look a lot better. It has me a little concerned, but this aircraft looks amazing. We have some islands here. This actually looks really good. One of my favorite things to do in P3D was to do the island hopper route between Guam, Chuuk, Ponape, Korsai, Kwalajian, Majuro, and Honolulu. I butchered probably half those names. If you're from there, you know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I'm bad at that. And it was beautiful. And there were so many islands downside. They were stock islands. And I'm really excited to see this, especially doing some hops around the Caribbean. So let's go to this. Now this, I want to talk about this scene for a few seconds. The level of detail has my mind blown. The fact the fog, it like actually stops and looks like it's not all the way around. Like, it looks like we have a little gap there, a little gap there. Doesn't look like it's a flat layer. Kind of what I talked about at the beginning. That has me very excited. Now, besides that, it just looks amazing. Okay, so here we go. I love this camera work they did. Oh god, I wish I had that level of editing. I bet you all do too. This looks really good, and the rainbow. So my one thing I am curious about is if we're gonna be able to change the weather, because kind of off topic here. I hope we're able to kind of do user-defined weather. They touched on that before. I think you're going to be able to, because I would love to play this where how beautiful it looks. We'll go ahead and kind of go for the next shot. Now, the snow. I am blown away with this. I don't know how they were able to do this, but the fact that the snow actually looks like it's there and not just kind of a thing that's just like another layer that's thrown on top. Because wow, I'm excited. I'm sorry, this is less an information video in this point, and more of a just a hype video for myself, getting me super excited. I noticed that this, now I was kind of looking at this. I unfortunately don't have a way to zoom in, but you can kind of see here where it looks like we might have a little bit of a rendering error. I don't know the exact look of that bridge, but you can kind of see right there, which isn't a big deal. I'm just kind of curious. And the other thing I noticed is this doesn't look to be see-through. So I'm thinking what they do is something kind of like Google Earth. Go Google Earth Maps, you turn to 3D, you can kind of see stuff from an angle, and you see the outline of a bridge. So that bridge would be 3D, but it wouldn't have the individual like tension cables or supports. I don't know exactly which one that is, but it's just kind of a, you know, the model is that, and then the two things. So I'm kind of curious about that. Still looks amazing. Now here we go. We're seeing flying, and my favorite thing about this is it's that you're not seeing those red numbers, red lines, because in FSX you had to go through a lot of work to do it, and I'm guessing they probably have an easy button to hit so you don't see people's names on that. It has me excited. Now look at this. First thing I want to talk about is the fact that there is some reflection on this. I mean, look at that. Let me go back here and we play that and just look at the how the reflection changes. That's not something that flight sims have been really good at. There's been some, but not a lot. P3D V4, I think it was V4, maybe V3. I'm pretty sure, but it was V4 that brought in light changes, which is still pretty nice. But the fact that reflections are good, you can still see some reflections and light changing on the cockpit instruments. Let's see if I can get a better view of the cockpit. That's a decent view of the cockpit. I'm looking at it, and it looks like everything seems to work, which is very nice, because some stock FSX, I'm going to compare it a lot to FSX simply because that's the best thing. I don't want to really compare it to X-Plane because I don't have a lot of time in X-Plane, and it's kind of like comparing I don't want to say Call of Duty to Battlefield, kind of close to the same type of game. If you know one, you can kind of hop and do the other, but not the exact same. I don't know if that's a good comparison on my part, but FSX had an issue where you had like 50% of cockpits working and 50% were just kind of there. They look cool, but it looks like everything's working, which really has me hyped up. Now let's go ahead. The shadows. Now the shadows are really smooth. I was looking at that. Oh, I skipped ahead. Oops. I skipped ahead a lot. I do really like the shadows. Not much to really talk about in this scene, at least from my view. I do like this camera. I love the different cameras and the different presets they have, so I hope this is good. This kind of gave me a headache for a second. So here we have the Burj Khalifa in Abu Dhabi. And look at this. So this is something we saw, this type of map on, I know P3D, the only experience I have in something similar to that was, I think the 787 with this level of detail, kind of having your aircraft. So I'm kind of curious to see what this looks like. Now the Burj Khalifa looks amazing, and look at the reflection off that and the wing. I'm excited to see. I mean, even the small detail, like I personally would not notice that not being there, but the fact that's there, that really makes me excited, because I love the small details. I think that makes most of these games, even the small one there, and there. So let's go ahead and, so I think that is a that's a Beechcraft. Don't know the airport, but that is a beautiful approach. We can see you have kind of a beautiful day over here, and you have a storm kind of begin to form over here. The way the light works, I am in love with, and the fact that the water just looks natural. So we're kind of coming in here. Now let me go back one time. So let me okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. This one, then the next one too. The fact that this has a working display to this level of detail, including like having the runway marked, you're playing on this map, I'm very excited. My biggest concern is they showed a lot of aircraft in the trailers, 747-8, A320, two ones I'm going to be flying a lot of, A320neo, let's say that. And I'm kind of concerned that we're not going to see a fully functional aircraft. It's going to be able to fly, but you're not going to be able to do SIDS, stars, waypoints. And I'm really kind of starting to feel that we might have fully functional, like PMDG Aerosoft level aircraft. Now, let's go ahead and skip forward. Same thing here, the fact that it's still, like, you can see the outline. Now, I was looking at this, not the prettiest, but also I don't really know what airport this is. MBAC, I think, is what the airport is. Somewhere, I'm guessing, in the Caribbean with MBAC. That'd be my general guess. But I love this level of detail. And then here we go. This one doesn't show much. I'm not really familiar with the prop cockpits, but the fact that the scenery looks just as beautiful here as it does over here. And it feels like, looking over, I feel like there's probably just as much detail right there as there is right there. So let's go ahead and go over. So the gear dropping on the 747-8 is actually, like, dead on beautiful. Now, this, the fact that we have, I was kind of looking at this, and this is the other thing I'm curious about, is it looks like there's a lot of better static AI aircraft here. That was always one thing we had before. AI aircraft weren't that good. They weren't that pretty. And it looks like we have a lot of options now. That looks to be, I'm thinking, just my guess is that's like a DHL, either 57 or A300/A310. Now, here's the other thing. Now, this took me looking at it a couple times to notice. But look at the runway lights. It's smooth. It's kind of smooth, but downhill. Then we hit here and a little bump and smooths out. So I'm thinking we're going to see like X-plane, and we're not going to. It's not going to be like a complete flat surface anymore. You're going to have runways that are a little hilly, more realistic, like realistic runways are. And I'm excited because I've never tried to land on a non-flat runway, which I don't think is a big deal. That's not going to be something crazy different about this. But I'm really excited to try it because it's something new. And the level of detail with the lights and how they all look, and they're not all just the same color, or not same color, but same size light. That was kind of something I noticed in even P3DV4 and a lot of the places, especially the stock airports. You would have the same type of lighting. Like, all the lights would pretty much be around the same size, but you can tell that you have the runway lights here. You can have the PAPI lights. Couldn't come up with it. I think those are the PAPIs right there. And as we can tell, this is LAX, which they look. I mean, it looks like they did a great job. You can kind of see the LAX. I think it's a restaurant. It might be the USO now. I think it's the USO. Not sure. And you have the Tom Bradley International Terminal here. It looks like I think they're landing on 25 left is my guess. So we'll go ahead and go forward a little bit. Now, not much to really talk about with this. I just think this is a beautiful scene. I'm excited that they did give us some views. I hope they keep this. I hope this is like a preset view for inside the aircraft. Personally, as a YouTuber, I would love to be able to make videos that look like this from inside the aircraft. Just a simple A320 taxiing here, beautiful. Now here, this right here is what I'm excited for, because this looks like we're gonna have. I'm thinking we're gonna have fully functioning ground equipment, which is something we really didn't have before. Because we have guys walking around the plane right now, but here we go. Moving jetway, which we did have before, but they were never really that good. You really didn't have customization. You just hit Control J and boom, it'd come. But here's the other thing. Kind of curious why the engines were spooled up before, but it looked like, if we kind of go back, that it looked like the airplane might be pushing back. I'm hoping we'll see tugs and the ability to push back from the start, because that you could push back in original FSX, but it's literally just push you straight back. You weren't able to like go left, right. So I'm kind of excited to see that. Beautiful 747-8 landing, a A320neo taking off. I like that they have the heat waves there. You can kind of see where it distorts the vision. Now look at this, just all these lights here. Really, I'm really excited because this looks realistic, and I'm really excited to see what we're gonna see with some of the big cities like Chicago, LA, New York, London, Shanghai, Tokyo, where there's a lot of just ground lighting. And you can vaguely see the sun actually is like present. It's not just like a kind of light source over there. You can actually make it out and how the um, color changes as it gets farther away, more like a realistic sunset as opposed to kind of just being there, kind of FSX. And the way I'm just amazed by this scene, how you can kind of see the colors change as we change the level. So available August 18th. I hate that mostly because I I started school the day before. So let's go ahead and I want to cut over to something. Let me. Okay, and we are back from my little cut over. So here is some of this stuff because this took me a little bit of digging to figure out just because I wanted to know this. So they did announce that there are 3 editions. We have standard, we have deluxe, and we have premium/premium deluxe. And I was kind of curious, why would you buy premium deluxe? I was hoping to come with beta access, which that still hasn't been discussed yet. But here's a list of aircraft. So everybody will get the A320neo, the 47, and then a bunch of prop planes, and I'm thinking a few helicopters. I'm not really like knowledgeable on the GA and helicopter side of aviation, but then we have 5 more aircraft that are available to the deluxe, and so you get the Beechcraft, Cessnas. But the main reason, and the reason I'm gonna get premium, is that 87-10. Beautiful aircraft, love it, and I think it's worth it. So you get 30 aircraft as opposed to 20. So 10 more aircraft. If you really don't think you're gonna fly any of these, then I would say hold off. No reason to spend more money. If you're content with a 47 A320 and you're wanting to do just commercial aviation, I would say go for it. You really don't need the 87. You have the A320 for short haul, and you have the 47 for long haul. Here's the second thing. So we're going to take a look at this. This is the special airports. So they went through and handcrafted 40 different airports. And I'm excited about this. I like it because some of these airports are ones I fly all the time, and I just hate having to buy products that have that, for airports that should be given a little extra love. So we have, for instance, JFK, LA, Gibraltar, Entebbe, I think, I can't remember how to exactly say, Orlando. A lot of American airports. We also have Rio de Janeiro, Queenstown, Charles de Gaulle. But if you come down here, and Haneda as well, I was hoping we'll see Narita, but we didn't. If you get the deluxe, you get the Amsterdam Schiphol, Cape Town O'Hare, Madrid, and Cairo. And then for the premium, you get Denver, Dubai, Frankfurt, Heathrow, and San Fran. Honestly, this alone makes me want to go ahead and buy premium. For those airports, those are all airports I love flying to in real life and in sim. I think it's really good. So the last thing I want to kind of talk about, next last thing, is this is the only thing. I saw this a while back, and it took me forever, and this is the only picture I have. Unfortunately, it's kind of blurry. I'm sorry about that. This is the specs you need. So minimum specs are suggested to be a RX 570 GTX 770 with 2 gigs of VRAM, 8 gigs of RAM, and 150 gigabytes of storage space, which is across the board. And Ryzen 3 or Intel i5. Most people should have this nowadays if you're gaming. But even then, I think minimum wise, you'll be able to run it. But the recommended, you have the Ryzen 5 Intel i5 with the 590 or GTX 970. 970 is actually my old graphics card for upgraded. It's a great graphics card with the 4 gigs of VRAM and 16 gigs of RAM. And then bandwidth, sorry, I forgot to cover that, 5 megabytes and then 20 megabytes. And then the ideal. which is the Ryzen 7 Pro or i7 9800 with the Radeon 7 or RTX 2080 with 8 gigs VRAM and 32 gigs RAM. This right here, I think, is gonna be the killer. I have 16 gigs right now, and I am on the fence. Part of me wants to go ahead and upgrade. You can get about 32 gigs of a decent RAM for around $100, and then an SSD. You can get an SSD for probably, but I think you can get a 1 terabyte SSD for about 130. And personally, I'll say this: I originally ran Flight Sim for the longest time on a regular hard drive, and I upgraded to an SSD, and that made a world of difference for loading times. It just made the game run so much better. I would highly suggest, especially with a game like this, I'm not gonna I would never put on anything that's not an SSD. I think that is the worst mistake you could make. And 50 megabytes per second bandwidth. So kind of beefy internet, but it really depends. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is just kind of the pricing. So you have the base one, which is $60, normal AAA pricing. You have the deluxe, which came with the 5 extra planes and 5 extra airports. Kind of worth it. But I think if you're really gonna, if you want to, I would personally say the way I believe is looking at kind of what's thrown in between the extra aircraft and the extra airports. If you're gonna upgrade, I would really think that the 120 is your best deal. And 120 is really not that terrible. It's still pricey. The other option is you can get it with the Xbox Game Pass for PC for I think like $4 a month. I'm not really sure. I've never used it, but I think you know, if you're trying to save some money, check that out. Or if you're unsure if you're able to run it, this might be your best bet. So don't feel like pressured to buy the game. Now, of course, if you love it and you think you're gonna play it, I would suggest probably buying it, just because overall it's gonna be better to own it than to, you know, $4 a month, because 60 divided by 4 is 15. So if you think you're gonna play it a lot for over a year, then I would just buy it, because at that point you're gonna save money. But if you have Xbox Game Pass, then and you're using it for other things, then go for it. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. This is kind of just a breakdown, some information, what we know. If I hear any new information, I will try and make a video. It's not gonna be a 30-minute video like this, but until next time, you all have a good one. Goodbye.